So thank you for this list of funding opportunities. For neurodegeneration, is this also focused on single cells, or is it more broad?
Yeah, so the question, so it's not focused on single cells. It's much broader. Maybe one thing to clarify is, single cell biology has been very informative for neurodegeneration and in particular neuroinflammation. Mm-hmm. And so it's not allowable to submit the same application to both RFAs, but you can of course apply to both RFAs.
Okay. Specifically about the DCP and controlled access, has there been any further thoughts about controlled access for low-level data? I know I asked you this bit last time I saw you.
Yeah, and so the answer is yes, there has been a lot of active work in this domain. I don't think that there's been any clear conclusions, all right? I mean, I think that it's kind of gradually getting closer. And so at the risk of misspeaking or misleading anyone, I think the answer is yes, this is a really important issue from a compliance standpoint as well. And so I think this is at the front of many people's minds.
Cool, thank you.
For the inflammation, the grant funding, is there like a framework, or is it could be just anything related to the single cell analysis of inflammation?
Yeah, so the framework is one in which we're really looking to connect diverse areas of inflammation. So it's acknowledging that right now inflammation, certainly in the US, exists in often kind of disease-specific or organ-specific questions. And so our hope is to create some collaborative networks and domains where maybe someone looking at lupus in the kidney is also interested in similar cell types or signatures involved in various diseases within the liver and et cetera. So it's looking to provide some short kind of initial pilot funding to start to conceptually kind of bring different groups together and connect these areas, with the hypothesis being that common cell types and signals and pathways will be involved in many.
So it could be broad subject as long as it's like a collaborative, integrative.
I think that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a great enterprise, and thanks for briefing us. One of the ways to ramp up interest in an enterprise like this is really possibly to collate all the biological questions that can be answered by this approach, because that actually is putting the cart together with the horse, so to speak, so that they can sort of reinforce one another. When you have that kind of collation of questions, then of course it is also an idea on how we should actually proceed with annotating the data. That would be something that you can start, I think.
So I think it's a great idea. So compiling the list of questions, right? And I think that is an excellent idea, and we should do this, absolutely. I don't know if there's a formal forum to do this, but maybe Slack is someone who have been proposing in the past, but I don't know how many people are actively using Slack. But perhaps if a lot of these questions are commonly heard in a lot of these meetings, we could definitely raise them up faster than usual.
Very key, because when you have such massive data sets, there's really so many questions you can ask just with the existing data, let alone all the questions you can ask by adding to it, by generating data from slightly different kinds of samples. So at least in our experience, the ideas for which biological questions to pursue have really come up in fora like this, where we get together for these workshops and meetings and discuss face-to-face, to form consortia, and just continue to work together. So I'll highly recommend the working groups or the breakout sessions we have today and tomorrow at the meeting, and that will be a great place to bring up and discuss questions that we can address from this kind of data. Another avenue would be simply connecting with people here, and we can do the matchmaking if needed to form consortia to say what are our shared interests and so on. So this is a mixture of a scientific conference and a workshop style meeting where we want to seed such collaborations and define the questions for HCA Asia.
Just to give an example, so AIDA is trying to profile immune cells of the Asian population in Asia, but there are efforts in the US where they're trying to profile immune cells of Asians in America. So that we did not talk before this, but that got us to think about new questions about the role of the environment and and diet and how that can change immune. So through collaboration and a lot of discussions, it's raising new type of questions. So hopefully I'd like to see more of that happening through talking to a lot of people in this room and just ask questions that we haven't really thought about before.